AM 1410 WRMN. Myself, Mike Napolitano, with my co-host, Derek Geyer. And when we last left off, we were talking about the Miles Wolf Cup playoffs with the Chicago Dogs and the Cleburne Railroaders, as well as the Kane County Cougars facing the Lake Country Dockhounds. Now, Derek had gone to that second Cougars game against the Dockhounds, in which the Cougars moved on to the second round after their 1-0 shutout victory. They were 2-0, undefeated in these playoffs. And we are coming to you on Friday, September the 13th. Ooh, spooky, but we have some baseball news to get to and catch you up on the American Association playoffs here, as we were still awaiting that third Dogs game. That night that we recorded our first episode there at WRMN, the Dogs were playing Game 3 against the Cleburne Railroaders in Cleburne, and it was winner take all in that decisive Game 3. Cleburne had won Game 1 6-3. The Dogs came back with a shutout 4-0 win in Game 2, but the Dogs head to Cleburne and advance with a 3-1 victory. Play-by-play broadcaster for the Dogs, Aaron Schellen, said it best. He said, quote, "Cleburne wanted the Dogs and they got the Dogs," quote. So, Derek, I don't know, what were your thoughts on that first series and the Dogs making it into the second round in order to face the Kane County Cougars?
It was going to be a tough series. Obviously, it went 3 games. The Dogs came out on top. It wasn't really, for me, it was actually quite the surprise, because during the regular series or regular season, Cleburne played the Dogs really tough, and I wasn't exactly expecting them to get past Cleburne, to be quite honest with you.
Yeah, of course, Cleburne took the division and got the choice in who they wanted to play in that first round. They chose the Dogs, thus the quote from Aaron Schellen saying, you chose us and you got us. And I think it was a little bit more than they were thinking. The Railroaders bit off more than they could chew with this Chicago Dogs team. But of course, that meant we were going to get a matchup that I think many have awaited in these Miles Wolf Cup playoffs ever since the Chicago Dogs became a team just back in 2018. The series between the Kane County Cougars and the Chicago Dogs. It's kind of the American Association's version of the Chicago Cubs versus the Chicago White Sox, a little inter-Chicagoland rivalry here. And of course, these two teams meet all regular season long, but in the playoffs, I believe this is a first. I'd have to go double back and check the playoff notes from previous seasons. I know it didn't happen last year. We were robbed of it when the Milwaukee Milkmen defeated the Kane County Cougars in round 1 in order to go on to face the Dogs and eventually lose to them. But here we are in 2024.
Yeah, and when I was actually attending that second game against Lake Country up at Northwestern Medicine Field for the Cougars, and I was walking out of the stadium, a lot of the fans were anticipating playing the Chicago Dogs. The fans wanted the Chicago Dogs. And quite honestly, they couldn't believe that they would have to wait another day to finally get the Chicago Dogs versus the Kane County Cougars. So it's definitely was a matchup that the fans of Kane County were looking for.
Yeah, it's always a case, I think, in sports of you don't want to face the division leader or what seems like the juggernaut of the season. And Cleburne seemed like that team going into the playoffs, obviously winning the division and getting the choice on who they wanted to play. So they basically set that first round of the playoffs. But then, the other side of things is, you wish to not play that number 1 team, especially in this case when it's Cleburne and the travel is tough. But also, you're going to get home field advantage if it's not Cleburne. But then again, on the other side, on the other hand, you're facing the team that knocked off Cleburne. So either way, you're going to get a tough opponent. You're going to be facing the winner. That's how playoffs work. But you know what? I think with all things considered, like we mentioned, they wanted to see that Dogs versus Cougars matchup. And we're going to get into it. You and I were there for that second game of round 2. And the atmosphere in the ballpark was absolutely electric. As much as Dogs fans are right up the street and can invade Northwestern Medicine Field the same way.
And they did a fairly good enough job invading Northwestern Medicine.
Yes. And of course, there were a lot of Cougars fans that Monday night game in Rosemont at Impact Field as well. But that rivalry is just amplified even more because of the fact that the travel to either ballpark is so easy. So it's not necessarily a home field advantage for either side, no matter what ballpark you're playing at, because you've got an opposing crowd in the building that is going to be loud because they know that they are the opposing crowd. So
only about an hour north, hour south, depending on which fan base you are. So an hour west. Yeah, my geography's always been a little shoddy, so whatever. But you fine folks know what I'm talking about. So did you want to get into the audio that we had for game 1, or how do you want to do this, Mike? Since you're the guy running the controls right now.
Yeah, especially with our Zoom here. I apologize. I'm got to wipe my nose here. The west side of things, though, we should kind of recap that. Winnipeg was the first seed in the West. They decided to take on the Sioux Falls Canaries, the number 2 seed. Winnipeg was able to win that series with games 2 and 3 at home, 7-3 and 10-3 respectively. And then in the other series, that was the 3rd seed Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks facing the 4th seed Sioux City Explorers. The Sioux Falls Canaries and the Sioux City Explorers. The Redhawks were able to defeat Sioux City also in 3 games, but they won games 1 and 3, 2-1 and 6-5 respectively. So it would be Winnipeg versus Fargo-Moorhead in this second round as the Cougars and Dogs were squaring off. And they call that rivalry the Red River rivalry, because of the fact that you can take the Red River straight up from Fargo-Moorhead into Winnipeg. So it's just a quick river ride up. Of course, I'm sure they traveled by bus, but if you really, really wanted to and the weather was nice, you probably could take the river up into Winnipeg or down into Fargo-Moorhead.
Back in my day. I wasn't doing that stuff, so my bad.
So as Derek and I mentioned, we were both at that first game at Impact Field Monday night. That was a 5-2 victory for the Cougars. We have a little bit of audio for you. The Cougars were down to start up to start that game, I believe. They had the lead from the jump, but they lost that lead. The Dogs eventually tied things at 2, but late inning runs from the Cougars were what helped them get this victory 5-2 and take things back to Northwestern Medicine. So we have a little bit of the audio.
And it wasn't really, I would say that the Dogs helped the Cougars win because there were a couple passed balls. There was a botched outfield play by the left fielder Novak. But just wanted to preface it because you're about to hear this in the audio clip.
Yep, and let's go to that right now.
Bottom of the 3rd inning, Cougars trail by a run. Trendon Craig. Craig takes up high for ball 4. Craig working the walk as Armand Upshaw stands in.
Well, I apologize. That is game 2. Of course, me running the controls here. I've got the wrong one. 50-50 shot, and I still screwed it up. So let's get you back to game 1 real quick.
Cornelius Randolph, he has the lone hit of the night for the Cougars. 2-2. That's bounced in the dirt. Actually, I think it got a piece of Randolph, so he's awarded first base. Here's the 1-2 pitch. That's in the dirt, and it gets all the way to the backstop. So Randolph will take second. He's up into scoring position on the wild pitch. Sir was ready. 2-2 pitch. That one gets away as well. Randolph heading for third. Another one in the dirt that got between the legs there of D'Alessandro. So now the Cougars have the go-ahead run 90 feet away. Here's the payoff pitch. pitch. And Lott floats it into right field, a base hit. Randolph in to score, and it's 1-0 Cougars as Todd Lott picks up the second hit of the night for the Cougars, and that brings in a run to make it 1-0. McGarry.
Here, pause it right there, Mike.
I gotcha. Yeah,
Okay.
That was that first run on 2 passed balls from the Dogs.
2 passed balls. Yeah. So when I was cutting this together, one of the things that I noticed, oh, and by the way, this was brought to you by or courtesy of the American Association. So want to get that bit of business out of the way there. But Nick D'Alessandro, he's the catcher for the Dogs. And I'm not exactly sure if this is his catching style or if this is the way that he is just doing his catching these days. But he's got that knee bent in the dirt, legs spread out, and runner on first. So when Serwa is pitching, he's not really able to get his body in front of the ball to block it. The first one, it goes under his leg. The second one was a little bit further outside, and he was just unable to slide his body over in good position, get his hands down on the ground to block the ball, which obviously led him to being able to go to third base. Now, the other thing that I found very interesting is Lott is actually the leader for Kane County in RBIs. He, I had this all pulled up here. Gotta love technology. I'm the old guy that can't run shiatsu. So Lott, he has 67 RBIs to lead the team. So if there was ever a guy that you want up at the dish at this particular moment in time, it would be him. And he was able to fight off a decent pitch, got the RBI.
Yeah, that was a huge first run for the Cougars on the road to kind of get things started. And as you will hear, they added to that lead in this next clip from the American Association.
He hits a high fly ball, shallow left field. Nick Novak backing up on it, and he can't find it. He couldn't catch the ball.
No.
Lott charging home. The throw to the plate is not in time, and it's 2-0 Cougars. Nick Novak lost the ball in the lights. The Cougars take advantage, and it's 2-0. It was a lazy fly ball off the bat of McGarry. Novak just couldn't.
Oh, no. I was... Yeah, sorry, Mike.
You're good. You're good.
Yeah, and sorry, everyone listening to this fine hang-up show on WRMN 1410 AM. This is our first Zoom. We will be doing probably a few more of these throughout the rest of the year and everything. But we're still trying to work out the kinks, so we apologize about that. But yeah, I mean, so you got 2 pass balls, leads him to get on to third base. Then you got the fly ball, which should have been the third out of the inning that Novak lost in the lights. Now all of a sudden, I mean, you're beating yourself up, and you're allowing the other team to take advantage. And the Kane County Cougars took advantage, and that's the way that it is, really.
Yeah, some of the backstory here. I was late to that first game, so the scoring is a little hazy in my memory here. So the clips are a little hazy. That second game I remember, and we have the stats broken down for you. Another thing is Derek, of course, you were at both games, but that first game you broke down that catcher positioning and such. You were a catcher. So if there's anybody that's going to know that style of play and the nuance of that position, it's going to be you. So that was a great breakdown, and we're going to get back to the rest of the clip here from that first game at Impact, and then we're going to jump you into the second game as quickly as possible to let you know how the Cougars fared in this second series against the Dogs.
Back it down, and Lott comes motoring all the way from first. It's 2-0 Cougars. That brings up Claudio Final. 1 away, top of the 7th, 2-2 our score. So here's a big 3-2 pitch upcoming to Final. Here's the payoff. And Final with a drive, deep to center field. Harris going back on it, and that ball is gone. A solo shot to center by Claudio Final. His second of the postseason, and the Cougars lead 3-2. As Trendon Craig is coming up to the plate. Here's the pitch. Craig with a shot towards short. That gets through into left center field. Dunhurst getting the wave around from third. He's in to score. It's 4-2 Cougars as Trendon Craig comes through with an RBI single. Upshaw with a high fly ball, fairly deep to left. Novak backing up. He makes the catch. Cribbs tagging from third. He'll come in to score. It's 5-2 Cougars. The runner is out at second, but Cribbs scores to make it 5-2. Trendon Craig tried to tag from first. He was thrown out to end the inning, but Armand Upshaw comes through with a sacrifice fly to make it 5-2 Cougars as we head to the bottom of the ninth. 5-2 in game one of the East Division Championship Series, and the closer, Tyler Beardsley, comes on.
So that was Connor Klingen, a good friend of mine and a friend of the show at this point, I guess, taking over for, of course, Joe Brand. Has left the Cougars organization because he has accepted a position with the Pittsburgh Penguins. If any of you know Joe Brand.
He's becoming a puckhead now?
Yeah, well, he's always been there.
He's always, obviously, but yeah, congratulations, Brand.
Yeah, congratulations to Joe Brand, another friend of the show. He worked with WGN and the Blackhawks during that same time. He was doing summers with the Cougars. So, of course, hockey is, I think, his first calling, but he's got that voice for baseball as well, but so does Connor, and he does a nice job illustrating that 5-2 lead for the Cougars in that American Association audio right there. And that was really how that first game shaped up for this Cougars side. They go in, they get the win. I'm not sure if you had any more in these last 55 seconds for the for the first game. Is there anything necessary?
No, I'm sure it encapsulated everything, so I don't really think we need to play that. I mean, okay. It was, so the first game, it was basically, my summation of it was the Dogs shooting themselves in the foot and the Cougars taking, what they gave them. So, good on the Cougars.
Sometimes, it's not just so much being a good team, it's also capitalizing on those errors and those chances that you're given and getting a little lucky and taking advantage of that luck. But game two was nothing of that sort. It was mostly just skill against skill, pound for pound. It was a very tightly contested game. The Dogs took a 1-0 lead in the second inning on a Nick D'Alessandro, of course, the catcher that we were talking about in that first game, sac fly to center. Shortstop Derek Mabin was the one who scored. So the Dogs take that 1-0 lead, but the Cougars answered back with 2 runs on a Cornelius Randolph double in the bottom of the third that scored center fielder Trendon Craig and right fielder Armand Upshaw.
Bottom of the third inning, Cougars trail by a run. Trendon Craig. Craig takes up high for ball 4. Craig working the walk as Armand Upshaw stands in. And hits a line shot into left field. This one towards the gap. Craig around second. Upshaw heading for second. He is in there with a double, and the Cougars have 2 runners in scoring position. Cornelius Randolph. Here's the 3-2. Randolph smokes it fair into the right field corner. Craig is home. Upshaw right behind him, and Cornelius Randolph comes through with a 2-run double to give the Cougars the lead. Top of the...
So you heard there that the Cougars take a 2-1 lead in that bottom of the third. It would stay that way up until the 8th inning, and then Derek...
And just out of curiosity, what happened in that 8th inning, Mike?
Well, you looked at me and said it would be the time for a Narciso Crook moonshot to tie the game. And I didn't think the big power hitter, I mean, he had been stellar for the Dogs all season, leading them in home runs and absolutely demolishing the cover off of baseballs. But I scoffed and I said, this power hitter, he hasn't done much in the playoffs.
Exactly. He hadn't done much, but I mean, geez. If there was ever a time that he was going to come through, and that's exactly why I thought that he would launch one. And go ahead, play the tape.
Yeah, he definitely made me think I jinxed the season for the Cougars.
The 8th inning, the Cougars lead 2-1, and Vin Timpinelli comes on, the right-handed reliever, man from Staten Island, to take on 2, 3, and 4 in the Dog. Now here's Narciso Crook, the former big leaguer. He's 0 for 3 tonight. Vin's ready. Here's the 0-2. High drive, deep to left. Randolph back, and that ball is gone. Narciso Crook ties it up on an 0-2 solo homer to left field to make it 2-2.
So tie game after that clip from Connor Klingen, and I'm sure in the background you could all hear that there was a lot of cheering going on. Those were the Dogs fans invading Northwestern Medicine Field, but I actually think if I listen to that audio closely, you can hear Aaron Shellen in there from a booth over, excited that the Dogs season was still within their grasp with this tied up game after that moonshot of a homer, like I said. Narciso Crook really silenced myself after I made those comments and the home crowd. You called it. I jinxed it. But yeah, the entire first base side full of visitors and visiting fans were just erupting.
Yeah, it was a nice moment for myself because usually those don't come through to fruition. But I just had a feeling he was due. He looks like he had been swinging the bat pretty good, but nothing to come of it up until that point. And it was a huge knock.
That's twice now this year that I doubted a home run and it was hit. We were at that crosstown game, the White Sox and Cubs, and I sat next to my dad, and Andrew Benintendi already had one on the night, and I said, it's unlikely that he's going to hit another one. Sure enough, my dad calls it, and I jinxed it. And as a Sox fan, I was so happy, but in this case, I wasn't too happy with our Cougars here. And luckily, they picked things up back in the ninth. But it was Narciso Crook rounding the bases and beating his chest. But in the bottom of the ninth, with a game in a deadlock 2-2 tie, catcher Simon Reed gets on base with a single and one out. And former Dog Harrison Smith was the pinch runner. He advanced to second on the Gally Cribbs Jr. ground out to the pitcher. And then Trendon Craig strikes out swinging for the second out. So it came down to right fielder Armand Upshaw. Once again, you heard his name earlier, and he lasers a grounder down the third base line. The diving play couldn't be made. Smith comes around, the former Chicago Dog. He scores, and it's a walk-off win, 3-2 for the Cougars. Let's jump back into that final ninth inning audio for you.
Yeah.
2-3 inning for Tyler Beardsley. And if the Cougars are going to the Miles Wolf Cup Finals, they're going to do it in walk-off fashion. It's 2-2 as we head to the bottom of the ninth. Simon Reed, the 1-2. Reed floats it into right field. That drops for a hit. And the Cougars have the winning run aboard. Simon Reed pokes the bat out there and comes through with a huge base hit. Harrison Smith will pinch run for Reed at first base. Harrison Smith, the former Dog. And you'd expect most likely a bunt from Gally here. The 0-1. Cribbs gets the bunt down to Marciano. His only play is to first, and he gets it there. Successful sacrifice by Gally Cribbs Jr. Armand Upshaw, the second-year Cougar. He's 1 for 4 tonight. Can he come through with his biggest hit as a Cougar? 2-2 our score. 2 outs, bottom of the ninth. Slight lead off of second base. He's running for third. Here's the pitch. It's grounded fair. Smith around third, and the Cougars are going to the Miles Wolf Cup Finals. Armand Upshaw, the hero, and the former Dog Harrison Smith scores the winning run. 3-2 your final as the Kane County Cougars are the 2024 East Division champion. They sweep the Chicago Dogs.
So you hear Connor Klingen in that American Association audio, and former Dog Harrison Smith. I mean, baseball is just so poetic like that.
Yeah, come back and bite the hand that feeds you or formerly fed you. I mean, and Connor's call of that, I actually got goosebumps when I was going through the footage and listening to it, because that was one hell of a call. And I don't even care that, this is an American Association broadcast, that we're listening to. So courtesy of them, we appreciate it. And and now we have, the next series, which is for the Wolf Cup. Or actually, do me a favor, actually get that correct for me, Mike.
The Miles Wolf Cup, the American Association playoffs. And we're going to give you a little bit more Cougars news when we return, and then jump into our hockey segment right here on AM 1410 WRMN. You are listening to On the Rise with myself, Mike Napolitano, and Derek Geyer. We'll see you in just a moment.
Plus Bulbs is more than batteries and bulbs. It's your repair shop for Apple devices, Samsung Galaxy devices, and more. Located on Randall Road, just south of 20 in Elgin, Batteries Plus Bulbs fills all your battery and light bulb needs in one stop. They have the largest selection of batteries for ATVs, cameras, phones, laptops, scooters, cars and homes, and everything else. Looking to save money with energy-efficient LED or holiday lighting? Stop in at Batteries Plus Bulbs in Elgin. Go to batteriesplus.com for special offers.
Hey there, this is Marky B from The First Shift, inviting you to join Brian Anderson for his new radio show, Kane County Speaks, every Thursday from 9 until 10 a.m. during the final hour of my morning show. It's an election year, and Brian will discuss important local issues and interview local candidates from the perspective of Kane County Speaks. The show will feature open phone lines for your thoughts, comments, and questions, and the chat room will be open at WRMN Radio on YouTube. Kane County Speaks is citizen-driven and focused on making Kane County a better place to live and work with goals of freedom, security, and prosperity for all. To learn more about their grassroots organization, you can check them out at KaneCountySpeaks.com. Let's discuss the issues of Kane County so that you can get involved and make a difference too. It's Kane County Speaks every Thursday morning with Brian Anderson from 9 until 10 a.m. during the first shift, right here on WRMN, AM 1410, and at WRMN Radio on YouTube.
A recent Gallup poll indicated that 38% of Americans are putting off health care because of financial concerns, the highest ever recorded. I'm Dr. Bob Martin, here to serve you every Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4. Millions of Americans are seeking health advice that will not cost an arm and a leg, so I offer health tips and advice absolutely free. Listen to my show, Sunday afternoons from 1 to 4 right here on WRMN, AM 1410 and 96.7 FM, the voice of the Valley and the home of Radio Shopping Show.
B-Lux Bar and Grill, Wisconsin Dells, is the quintessential American grill and bar, with refined rustic cuisine and award-winning libations. Their honest, feel-good food menu is complemented by a beer list to satisfy every taste. Classic cocktails and our signature shakes, rich and creamy with a splash of boozy goodness just to shake things up a little bit. B-Lux Grill and Bar, classic American cuisine with a contemporary twist.
America's Best Restaurants travels the country and features restaurants that you should visit each week. Recently, the cast and crew made their way to Renata's German Restaurant in Hanover Park. Renata serves old family recipes and delicious German-influenced food. Renata's also specializes in a wide variety of traditional German baked goods, too. So, if you've yet to visit Renata's, try America's Best Restaurants choice. Drop in soon for breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Visit renatasgermanrestaurant.com.
Anderson Japanese Gardens, ranked the highest quality Japanese garden in North America and located right in the heart of Rockford. Their mission is to open minds to a different culture while offering a place of peace and tranquility where one can find healing, renewal, inspiration, and a re-energized soul. A premier destination for corporate functions, special events, weddings, and receptions. For directions, hours, and fees, visit andersongarden.org today.
Theriault Booth, a leading local law firm, is located on the beautiful Fox River in downtown St. Charles. Here's Ryan Theriault.
For better or worse, there are just times people need a lawyer. Whether you are involved in a work injury, in an automobile crash, selling a home, or even planning for your estate after your passing, we're here. We're local. We're part of the community.
For more information, visit them on the web at tbfirm.com or give them a call at 630-526-4242.
AM WRMN. I am your host, Derek Geyer, along with Mike Napolitano, and we are continuing the Wolf Cup Finals and Kane County Cougars. So,
and before we jump into this final series, what I wanted to recap is that on the west side of things, you got to know who you're playing, right? So the Fargo-Moorhead Redhawks and the Winnipeg Goldeyes, they were in that Red River rivalry, as I was saying, in this second round of the playoffs. Well, game one, Winnipeg took decisively with a 10-1 victory. That was back on Monday night at the same time that the Cougars and Dogs were kicking off their series. Wednesday night, as the Cougars were punching their ticket to the Wolf Cup finals, it was Winnipeg falling to Fargo-Moorhead by a score of 5-3. So I think a lot of fans were thinking, well, are we going to see the Cougars have the home field advantage? Now, in this playoffs, I don't know if you've been able to keep up, but the home advantage team gets the latter half of the series for travel reasons. So if you are the lower seed, the series is always going to start at your home, especially in the first two rounds when it's a 3-game series. Game 1 is going to be at the lower seeds ballpark, and games 2 and 3 will be at the higher seeds, home field advantage for them. In this best of 5 Wolf Cup finals, it'll be games 1 and 2 at the lower seed and 3, 4, and 5 at the higher seed. So if Fargo had won, it was going to be games 1 and 2 in Fargo-Moorhead on Saturday and Sunday, and then games 3, potentially games 4 and 5, Tuesday through Thursday at Northwestern Medicine Field. But last night, Thursday, September 12th, the Winnipeg Goldeyes finished off the Red Hawks and came back in the decisive game 3 with a 3-1 victory, meaning that game 1 of the Wolf Cup final will be at 6:30 p.m. at Northwestern Medicine Field on Saturday, September 14th. And then game 2 will also be at home for the Cougars. That'll be a 1 p.m. start on Sunday, September 15th, meaning games 3 and potentially 4 and 5. Game 3 will be at 6:30 p.m. at Blue Cross Park in Winnipeg on Tuesday, September 17th. I don't know if I said the date there yet. Wednesday, September 18th would be possibly a game 4, provided there is no sweep from either side. That's another 6:30 start at Blue Cross Park. And then, if needed, a do-or-die game 5 at 6:30. Once again, that's Thursday, September 19th. At Blue Cross Park. So we are in for a treat with this series between the Kane County Cougars and the Winnipeg Goldeyes, two teams with a lot of history. And I know Winnipeg used to play the Schaumburg Flyers here back when it was the Flyers and not the Boomers. Different league, different times. So these two teams, of course, the Cougars, as you could see on the graphic behind me, 1888, their franchise can be dated back to, of course, under different names and in different locations. But both of these teams with quite the storied history and rich history. I would say this is a little bit of an America versus Canada finals, which is something you don't always get in baseball. Considering, for the MLB, you'd have to have the Toronto Blue Jays in there. I don't believe the Montreal Expos, when they existed, ever really made it into the World Series. So it's rare that you see a Canadian rivalry.
Yeah, the Montreal Expo season, that got cut short by the strike. But one thing of note, I think that it is kind of important, maybe not really, considering this is the playoffs and everything, with the Kane County Cougars and the Winnipeg Golden Eyes, is that the Winnipeg Golden Eyes took the season series from the Kane County Cougars 4-2. So they played them 6 times. The Golden Eyes won 4, but that was all the way back in, I believe it was either like June or July, and that might as well have been 20 years ago, as far as I'm concerned, because everyone is playing their best baseball right now, and so I'm pretty sure it's going to be a pretty good series, and I can't wait to go there later on tonight, Saturday. So
Yeah, well, as we said, we're recording here on Friday, so we got a little more than 24 hours to go until this series kicks off.
Sure, out me, Mike. Thanks, Mike.
I already gave them the spark notes here, the behind the scenes. The Winnipeg Goldeyes, as you mentioned, faced the Cougars early on in the season, and as we know, that's pre-trade deadline. You don't know what kind of injuries each team has or any kind of free agents being acquired throughout the season. So could be completely two different teams than what you saw at the start of the season. But, the Winnipeg Goldeyes are the number 1 seed coming out of the West. so far, the Cougars have not had to see a number one seed. They faced the Dogs, who knocked off the number one seed in the East, but the Cougars had the fourth seed, who am I thinking of in that first round? The Lake Country Dockhounds. Sorry, apologize.
Yep.
But so this will be a little bit more of a challenge, I think, for the Cougars, but they are playing their best baseball right now, and they are undefeated. I'm going to say it quietly. Undefeated, 4-0 thus far.
You say that shiatsu loud and proud, man.
I mean, I don't want to jinx
Cougars
anything.
are undefeated in the playoffs.
I have been the jinx all year, as I explained last clip. So I don't want to be screaming that from the rooftops here.
So you're probably like one of those individuals that go ahead and don't really say, "Oh, he's got a no-hitter. Oh, he's got a perfect game going." Oh,
don't be doing that. When I was at Mark Burley's perfect game, sitting 3 rows back of the dugout, I did not say a word. I just kept my scorecard to myself as much as possible.
Yeah.
Cheered when Dwayne Wise made that catch, and then celebrated after the fact, of course.
And you know what happened? And you know what happened in that White Sox dugout? Burley was going to everyone, "Hey, I've got a perfect game going."
To each their own, but I wasn't going to be the reason why.
Yeah, whatever. Oh, no, he's got a perfect game. Sorry, go ahead. We got other business to attend to.
We do, and we have to change backgrounds as we switch gears here into the Chicago Steel. They are also technically in season, but it's preseason. We talked about last weekend, they dropped a 9-3 blowout loss. We talked about Cameron Aucoin, son of his NHL father, Adrian Aucoin, who played for Vancouver Canucks, Tampa Bay Lightning, New York Islanders, Chicago Blackhawks, Calgary Flames, Phoenix Coyotes, and Columbus Blue Jackets. We also talked about how the Steel have on their team this year Blake Vanek, son of Thomas Vanek. If you're not familiar with the name, he was captain of the Buffalo Sabres for a while, but he also played for the New York Islanders, Montreal Canadiens, Minnesota Wild, Detroit Red Wings, and also Vancouver, just like Adrian Aucoin, and Columbus, like Adrian Aucoin, Vancouver and Columbus, as well as Florida. So these two men have been around the league quite a bit, and now their sons are just getting into the development leagues here. We followed up that 9-3 blowout loss with the Steel taking a 3-0 shutout win over the Muskegon Lumberjacks. Notre Dame commit Owen Tylich scored 2 goals, including the empty net goal, in order to seal the deal for the Steel in his preseason debut. And then the second-year forward, he scored 4 goals in the 23-24 campaign. So this is already halfway to his totals from last year. Of course, it's preseason. It's not actually going to count. But if he's scoring like this come regular season, that is a good sign. Boston
nice
College
little momentum builder.
Oh, yeah. No, absolutely. Boston College commit Teddy Mutrin scored his second goal of the preseason in the first period. He scored in that first game, that 9-3 unfortunate blowout loss. But he had an assist for his second consecutive 2-point performance in this preseason. So 2 preseason games, 2 2-point performances for Teddy Mutrin. Notre Dame commit Charlie Pardue. He's a Winnetka, Illinois native. He recorded an assist on Tylich's first goal in his preseason debut. Pardue notched 7 points. That's 4 goals and 3 assists with the USA National Team Development Program. That's the USA NTDP last year, 23-24 season. Providence commit Jack Parsons and Nebraska Omaha commit Luca Cloutier split the crease, and they each made an even 18 saves each to combine for a 36-save shutout. So overall, a really great team performance from this Chicago Steel team to come back in this second game against Muskegon. Muskegon alumni, we had a couple of notes there just to kind of recap who Muskegon can be or who is typically in their organization. Well, the Blackhawks' 18th overall draft pick in the 2024 NHL draft, Sacha Boisvert, he will not be with Muskegon, of course, this year. He's been drafted to the Blackhawks, and we're going to talk about him a little later as we dive into the Rockford Ice Hogs and Blackhawks notes as the Tom Curvers prospect camp is going on, and then, of course, regular Blackhawks training camp is soon to be underway. but Sasha Boisvert is a product of this Muskegon National Development Team. And then also last year, not this year, a name that you might recognize, Andrew DeBrincat was on the coaching staff for Muskegon. That is the brother of former Blackhawk Alex DeBrincat. So just a couple of neat notes in there. And then in the future...
I feel so old. Bring these guys' names up, and it's like a blast from the past. And I'm like, oh, my God, they've got kids that are 18, 20 years old, starting to become in the league. Oh, my goodness. Mike, you're killing me here, you young whippersnapper.
I was not aware that Alex DeBrincat had brothers that were still in. I think I was aware that he had a brother. I think he has two. This is one of them. And, of course, the two of them grew up in Detroit, Michigan, well, outside of Detroit, Michigan. So they kind of grew up Red Wings fans. However, they played a lot of their junior hockey here in Chicago, I believe, with the Chicago Mission. In fact, I'm not sure if either one of them actually ever played for the Steel. I'd have to double check those stats, but I know they played a lot of their junior career coming up. Even high school career, I believe, for Alex DeBrincat. So the DeBrincat name is kind of a product of both Michigan and Illinois hockey, which is kind of cool because you don't typically see a product of kind of Blackhawks fandom and Red Wings fandom coming together to become NHLers.
Yeah, almost a hockey civil war, if you will.
Exactly. Now Alex DeBrincat, of course, has played for both sides. In the middle, he played for the Ottawa Senators, but he started his career with the Chicago Blackhawks. And then he is now with Patrick Kane, former Blackhawk, and the Detroit Red Wings, which hurts my heart a little to say each time. But another crucial Chicago game that I went to was the Patrick Kane return to Chicago, which was also Chelios night. And in that game, Alex DeBrincat passed that puck to Kane in overtime for the breakaway that ended the entire evening festivities and left Chicagoans confused on whether to boo or cheer because it's your two former superstar. Well, superstar when you talk about Kane, small S when you talk about Alex DeBrincat, but I still loved him when he was here.
Well, here I'll out myself with this because I'm going to start by saying Detroit sucks, and then I'll say that I was absolutely cheering the game-winning goal by Patrick Kane because I mean he just has he will always have a special place in my heart. Because I mean, three Stanley Cups. He's as far as I'm concerned, he's the GOAT.
He can do no wrong here in Chicago. And yes, I was one of the many cheering, but the fans I think were collectively confused as a whole.
What do I do? I don't know. Oh, it's so pretty. It's Patrick Kane. Oh, he just beat the Hawks. Oh.
We need
explodes.
We need to be back live on WRMN and not having to do these pre-records. And it is my fault, so I'm complaining, but I'm the reason here. But we need Genius George up in here in order to talk about some more of these crucial Chicago sports moments. I feel.
Yeah, shout out to you, Genius George. What's a Gordie Howe hat trick?
Exactly.
Oh, never mind.
All right. Well, the future schedule for this Chicago Steel team, they will take on the Dubuque Fighting Saints. That's on the road tonight, Friday, September 13th, but you will all be hearing it Saturday morning when our show regularly airs. For you, it's currently 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., so somewhere in that mix. But that last night, I guess, in your time, it was a 7:05 start in their third of 4 preseason games for the Steel. And then the Steel will return home Saturday, September 14th at 7:05 p.m. That's technically tonight for you listening to close out the preseason schedule against Dubuque and the Fighting Saints. The regular season will begin Friday, September 20th versus the Des Moines Buccaneers. That is a 2 p.m. Central Time start. That is also the Dick's Sporting Goods USHL Fall Classic. That'll be played at Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. So, they're playing Des Moines, but it'll be out in Pennsylvania. And then the Saturday, September 21st game will be the second game of the season. That is the 11 a.m. start for this Steel team against the Waterloo Blackhawks. So we'll actually be on the air during that game. So we might be able to give you some live updates on Saturday, September 21st. but that is also at the UPMC Lemieux Sports Complex, also in Cranberry Township, Pennsylvania. If you're wondering about when you can attend a Chicago Steel game, well, their home opener is Friday, September 27th at 7:05 versus the Muskegon Lumberjacks, this team that they just opened up the preseason against. That game will include a pregame tailgate and a magnet schedule giveaway presented by TechWorks. And then Saturday, September 28th, the next day at 6:05 p.m., also at Fox Valley Ice Arena, at home, versus the Youngstown Phantoms. The Youngstown Phantoms, that'll be a pregame tailgate for that one, and also a postgame skate with the Steel. So make sure you either rent skates or borrow your skates from home or from a friend. So we are just about at the 17.5-minute mark. Derek, I know you were checking the time, okay, but we have a little bit more news here from the Steel, and then we also want to jump you into some quick Ice Hogs news, which is really Blackhawks news at the moment, so I don't want to step on Marcus's toes too much. But real quick, one more note about Steel games in the future. You can buy a Steel Pass, and this kind of is a combination of what we're about to talk about, because if you choose one Steel game per month, that's 7 games in total, as a reward, you will receive your choice of a Chicago Blackhawks preseason home game while supplies last. That's 7 Steel games, and that'll get you a free Blackhawks preseason game, all just for $95. So you can buy on the Steel website or call 855-51-STEEL. That's 855-51-STEEL. So that kind of combines our two notes as we jump into a little bit of Ice Hogs talk.
Yeah, and that deal kind of sounds like a steal.
I like what you
see what I did there?
Very good, very good.
Okay, go ahead. Ice Hogs.
Well, as we get into Ice Hogs, it is technically still Blackhawks because the Ice Hogs roster has not been finalized. It will be all of the prospects that don't make the NHL club. Yep. We talked about, I think last week, we mentioned that Saturday, October 12th at 7 p.m. is the Ice Hogs home opener and the beginning of the season. That is against the Grand Rapids Griffins, the Detroit affiliate. That'll include an opening night block party. So that is a pregame for fans that features live music, food, free T-shirt giveaways, food trucks, fun activities for both adults and kids that includes axe throwing and I believe like inflatable bouncy houses, inflatable rinks, and that kind of stuff. But what is going on right now for the Ice Hogs is the Tom Curvers Prospect Tournament. So Wednesday, September 11th, earlier this week, that began. It's a Blackhawks technically rookie camp in St. Louis. That will go through this Sunday, September 15th. And then Wednesday, September 18th, will be the actual Blackhawks training camp that will start up. I've been following along, as I always do, with post notifications from Charlie Remeliotis. He is the insider for the Chicago Blackhawks. He posted the training camp schedule. So it's actually Thursday, September 19th, that things kick off. That's a 10 a.m. practice at Fifth Third Arena. And then Kyle Davidson, Blackhawks GM, will be available for the media at 11 a.m. that same day. Friday the 20th is another 10 a.m. practice. Saturday the 21st is another 10 a.m. practice. Sunday, September 22nd, is a scheduled off day. I'm not going to run through the whole schedule here for you because we can come back on next week and give you the whole rest of that. But I encourage you, if you get a chance, if you're off any of those days, head on down to Fifth Third Arena. It's a couple blocks away from the United Center. Last year, I believe you had to claim a free ticket in order to get in because of the demand for Connor Bedard. This will be training camp, so of course Bedard will be there. Connor Bedard. So I would imagine, claim those tickets early, get there early because it's going to be a packed house even for training camp schedule. That should be open to the public, and you can watch Blackhawks hockey for free and see these players get ready for the season. Like I said, I'll bring you the rest of training camp next week. But what is going on right now? I mentioned that Tom Curvers Prospect Tournament. Connor Bedard will not be in attendance for that one because he is no longer considered a prospect. the top draft pick for the Blackhawks this year, Artem Levshunov, was expected to be in this prospect camp as he was the second overall pick in this past draft. However, he took a puck to the foot this past week, so he is currently under the weather as far as feet go and will be missing this St. Louis rookie camp. But the Blackhawks will be playing both the Minnesota Wild and the St. Louis Blues prospects. I believe that is tonight and tomorrow night at this Tom Curver's prospect tournament before they come back home to start their actual training camp. We have a couple of big names that are well known for Rockford Ice Hogs fans, but also Blackhawks fans. You had Rem Pitlick, who was up with the Blackhawks last season. Anders Bjork, who did most of his time in Rockford. Antti Sorella as well. Colton Dock, this will be his fourth year of training camp. He's the brother of former Blackhawk and high draft pick, third overall draft pick, Kirby Dock. The Blackhawks selected him around the same time. He has yet to make his NHL debut, so this is kind of a make-or-break year for him with a lot of younger guys getting into the league. Goaltender Jackson Stauber, who has made it up to the Blackhawks team at certain points. Drew Comesso, who is touted as the goaltender of the future. It might be a bigger role for these goaltenders this year up in Chicago, as Laurent Brossoit will be out 5 to 7 weeks. He is having surgery, or he had surgery, but 6 weeks away from that surgery date is the home opener. So we're already coming up on that. Peter Mrazek and Arvid Soderblom are expected to be the tandem in Chicago, but you never know if you see some of these Ice Hogs guys getting up into there. And then, of course,
and a lot of injuries last year led for a lot of the Rockford Ice Hogs roster to be up on the Hawks last year, right?
Right. So, and we also had a lot of Hawks make their debut, but I don't know if 3 games towards the end of the season really has solidified a spot for them on the Blackhawks roster, especially with all the free agents picked up this past season. So that's Ethan Del Mastro, Frank Nazar, Wyatt Kaiser, even guys such as Joey Anderson and Zach Sanford, including Lucas Reichel. And we're going to talk a lot more about him as we dive into more Ice Hogs. We are running out of time here. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm sorry we couldn't be live for you, but Derek and a couple other guests will be live. Derek, what do you have for them real quickly in this next segment?
All right. So coming up at the top of the hour, we have our fantasy football correspondent, Nick Johnston. And then at the bottom of the hour, we will be talking with the one, the only Marcus Mack and some Bears. So please stay tuned on 1410 AM WRMN. I'm your host, Derek Geyer, and that has been Mike Napolitano.
Businesses come in all shapes and sizes. Integrity doesn't. For more than a century, the Better Business Bureau has set the standards for how businesses should operate honestly and ethically. So when you're looking for a business you can trust, check to see who's BBB accredited and who isn't. Always choose the Better Business. Look for the BBB seal because it's looking out for you.
Sounds good to me. Yeah.
That's why it's the sign of a better business. And find a better business anytime at BBB.
How we doing, Matt? You hear me?
Yep.
Coming in 5x5.
It shouldn't require luck or chance.
Coming in 5x5.
How can you tell who you can trust? Pro tip. The BBB connects people with businesses they can trust. So think of the BBB as the better. Check with the BBB first because better businesses are honest and commit to high ethical standards bureau. That's why they're better. Always look for the sign of a better business and find a better business anytime at bbb.org.
Your hometown radio station since 1949. We are WRMN AM 1410, Elgin time, 9 o'clock.
welcome into AM 1410 WRMN. You are listening to On the Rise, and we are live, finally, in studio. I am your host, Derek Geyer. Mike Napolitano is taking a little siesta this Saturday morning. But in studio with me is our fantasy football correspondent, Nick Johnston. How the hell are you doing, Nick?
I'm doing fantastic. Ready for another solid week of fantasy football. Football in general, but great to be here. Great to be here.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me in the studio. So, Nick, tell our listening audience a little bit about yourself, if you will, kindly.
Nothing much other than just hopefully a fantasy guru in the slightest. Everyone likes to claim to be, but I got the hardware to prove it right here. So just a little bit of bling bling, a little bit of glamour.
That's a little bit of bling bling. He's got what would look like a Super Bowl ring, a World Series ring, a hockey ring. All blinged out.
It's a little bit more. I think it's a little harder to acquire one of these than one of those championships, obviously. Because you got to be a leader of men. You got to get a bunch of guys from a bunch of different teams, get them all on the same page, and then all for the same glory. Exactly, being your fantasy championship winner. That's the whole point of it.
Already talking shiatsu. I love it. I love it. So, since we are talking fantasy football, what were some of the surprises in Week 1?
Biggest surprises, honestly, was the lack of production and a bunch of first-round, second-round type guys. You saw not a lot of production from, the tight end position in general, but, Travis Kelce, who could have went pretty early in leagues, Devontae Adams, Chris Olave. And I believe it could, it's just my opinion, just my, theory that's going on right now. I think it was just especially in the passing game, it was that idea, the new offensive line rule that they're really honing in on, making sure that the tackles and the guards, that I believe it's their crown of their head needs to be right in line with the belt buckle of the center, which that's been a rule since high school level, but of course.
Sure, but now they're finally enforcing it.
They're honing in on it. It made the timing very, very off for a lot of QBs and a lot of offenses in general. That's why you saw almost half the league throw for under 200 yards last week. So I would think hopefully, with the with everyone practicing that now throughout this whole week, maybe a little bit of offenses pick up. You would see hopefully guys like Chris Olave get back in there and go, and even like Christian Kirk or something like that going.
Now, we were talking off air, and one of the big things that actually shocked me was you were saying something about the kickers.
Oh, yes. Pretty interesting. Of course, depending on your scoring, guys like, Jake Moody, who had 26 points in my league, Blake Group, the kicker for the Saints. There's also another big boot this week. I just off the top of my head, combining for almost 90 points. And then again, you get the idea of if you took Jamar Chase, Travis Kelce, other, even top quarterbacks, I believe like Patrick Mahomes didn't have more than 20 points in leagues. It was adding up to a ton of big names, not even adding up to these three kickers, which just goes to show you how crazy fantasy football can be. And I got this guy in my draft, I got this guy in the 4th round. Doesn't matter if a kicker outperforms your number one pick overall.
Yeah, and one of the big things that I noticed was that the Steelers kicker.
Boswell. Thank you. That was the 3rd one.
Okay, so he had 5 field goals.
Yeah.
So that was. And the rest of the offense really didn't do squat.
Yeah, and again, depending on your scoring, if my league, you get more points for how far the kick is kicked for. So if you get a 50-yarder, that's upwards of 5 points right there. That's almost a touchdown in some leagues.
Yeah.
If a guy like that, Boswell, who had, I think, a 50-yarder, he had I think it's 6 total field goals. So that's a big day right there for him.
Yeah, that would be a nice pickup.
100%.
So we just got done with the Thursday night.
Yes.
And it was the Bills versus the Dolphins.
Very unfortunate situation there.
Yes. And obviously Tua Tagovailoa. I got to say it slowly. This way I could actually pronounce it correctly.
That's okay. Be prepared for next year when Ungalele. See, I can't even get it.
It almost sounds like a luau kind of thing.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
Going to a luau. But so the Bills beat the Dolphins 31-10.
Yes. On
Thursday Night Football. Tua gets hurt. What are some of the ramifications coming from that game going forward?
Sure. On the Dolphins side of things, it's going to be pretty bleak a little bit, of course. Skylar Thompson going to be the foreseeable starting quarterback right there. So I can see why some people aren't excited, especially when if you took Tyreek Hill in the first round, some people probably even took him maybe 1-1 this year, which could be it justifiable for sure. But seeing your starting quarterback go down, I think Tyreek Hill is still going to be viable. Obviously, you saw Devon Achane still have almost a 30-point game, and again, in some leagues, depending on your scoring, he's just catching everything. He's catching everything out of the backfield, and I think that's going to be a huge thing for him. The odd man out might be Jalen Waddle in this situation, where he was kind of struggling to begin with. He was actually hurt basically all offseason. He was wearing one of those red non-contact jerseys all offseason. So that I believe he might be the odd man out. Of course, there's always possible upside. The Dolphins are talking about bringing a new quarterback in, maybe like Ryan Tannehill or something like that, someone who's been in the system before. But right now, like I said, I think Tyreek Hill is still a viable start. While that's a humongous it affects him.
I mean, it's a pretty big ask.
Yes, it's tough for him for sure. He's still going to be in your lineups. Devon Achane still very much in your lineup. Maybe if you want to throw in maybe Raheem Mostert when he gets healthy again. But yeah, like I said, in my mind, Jalen Waddle will be the odd man out. On the opposite end, Bills. I mean, you saw James Cook. He had 3 touchdowns. You didn't need to see anything from Josh Allen. That's why he would only threw like a 139 and a touchdown. Not even any. I mean, 2 yards rushing. So again, it was just the idea that game script, they were just running the ball with James Cook the entire time. So nothing to be alert with on the Bills side, to be honest.
Yeah, the game was pretty much at hand, probably at halftime.
Yeah. The only disappointing thing was if you have Dalton Kincaid, he got kicked in the head on just by accident. That's why he ended up leaving. He should be fine, I believe, the rest of the way out. So, again, that's why he only had about 7 points in a PPR league.
Gotcha. So and that was the start of this week. So we will hit the rest of the slate for this coming Sunday's NFL action and Monday night. First game on the schedule is the Raiders versus the 0-1 Raiders versus the 0-1 Ravens.
Yes.
What do you got in that game?
So, the Raiders. Not an exciting offense. You saw last week they only scored 10 points, and again, a guy like Devontae Adams, while he was targeted, just didn't get the big bombs, the big plays. He's going to be very much needing a touchdown going forward. The big problem right now is their backfield. Zamir White and Alexander Mattison. Might be an uptick in touches and looks for Alexander Mattison. I'm not saying you need to start one of these guys. I'm saying like this might be for stashing / maybe even like deeper 12-man leagues, something like that. Alexander Mattison, especially in a PPR format, is going to be on the uprise a little bit. He caught 5 passes. He had a touchdown last week as well, and just outperformed Zamir White. So hopefully you didn't reach too much on a guy like Zamir White, thinking he was going to be the bell cow there. It most likely might be Alexander Mattison for a little bit as well.
Gotcha. Now, when you say PPR, that for those of you that aren't in the know, PPR is points per reception, correct?
Okay, yes, cool. My apologies for not clarifying.
No, you're good.
Yes, of course, there's full PPR for getting a full point per reception, or some people are in half PPR leagues where you don't give as much power / as much need to go for a wide receiver right away. You can you can still rely on like half like running backs and stuff like that. I would still have some sort of confidence in Devontae Adams. I don't think I'm not like breaking the glass in case of an emergency on him just yet. Even a guy like Brock Bowers, I still see some value right there as well. On the opposite end, you're not really too worried too much here. You're going to start Derrick Henry. Keep Justice Hill just on the
Derrick Henry for the Ravens.
Yeah, you keep on the Ravens side of things. Make sure you maybe just look at Justice Hill. He caught 6 passes last week. He might be their pass catching back out of there. But of course, not worried about Lamar. You love Isaiah Likely. He was probably the biggest waiver wire pickup on the week if it wasn't J.K. Dobbins in somebody's league. But otherwise, if you're in deeper leagues, Isaiah Likely might have been traded or might have been drafted already. So
gotcha.
Tough part right there. And on the same note, in the same breath, I'm not too worried about Mark Andrews. I think there was some hesitant. Maybe he wasn't just fully healthy after the car accident after the offseason or during the offseason, which they kind of. My mind, I feel like they downplayed. I feel like
probably.
And did you watch the Receivers show on Netflix at all?
I can't say that I did.
Okay. If you do watch it, if you ever get a chance to, it shows me that, the teams aren't very transparent with telling the league that their players are injured. So it didn't surprise me that the Ravens were probably like, maybe we'll downplay this injury if there is one. But.
Well, I'm pretty sure that's been going on for as long as for the last 50 years or so.
Since they changed the pigskin to the leather, I'm sure that was the case.
Any sort of competitive advantage that one team can gleam over the other. But next game up on the docket would be the 1-0 Chargers versus the 0-1 Panthers.
Okay, I'll make this one a little bit easier, a little bit quicker. Panthers, you're not touching anybody. It's as simple as that. I mean, Bryce Young was running for his life the entire time. They're
still pretty much like the bottom of the barrel.
Oh yeah, I see no. I honestly feel bad for the kid. I feel bad for Bryce Young. He went to a place where there's really just no hope. Even a guy, Xavier Legette, you see possibly some upside, but I'm not putting anything in his basket until I see something.
Gotcha.
Adam Thielen off the board, and then I think their only viable option was Brown, and he got hurt. So
not
really worried about there.
What are you thinking on the Chargers side of the ball?
Chargers side, I'm not dying to play one of these guys this week because every time you see it on paper like, oh, the Panthers, bad defense, you can run on them, you can pass on them. The teams end up running a ton on them. So, J.K. Dobbins might have another nice week this week. Gus Edwards in the same breath. So it might be a little bit of a big split, and they'll get a ton of yardage and a ton of usage. I like Ladd McConkey. He's the new rookie wide receiver there for a new weapon there. But again, when teams are up, especially on the Panthers, they don't usually throw a ton. So for this week, it might be a little easier for Justin Herbert and the gang. So I expect a big win for the Chargers.
Okay. So next up would be the 1-0 Saints they're at the 1-0 Cowboys.
This would be a nice little change of pace for the Saints. They went off last week against the Panthers again in that same breath. Kamara scored a touchdown. Derek Carr had 3 in the air throughout the time. Rashid Shaheed, you saw a guy like that go off as well.
So needless to say, this is going to be a little bit different of a task for the Saints they're
versus
the Cowboys.
Playing a much tougher defense right here. And, the Cowboys defense, honestly, is one of those where, defenses, you go in there each week, you're like, oh, what's the matchup? What's this? How almost as if, it's not a lock-in. I think the Cowboys defense is a lock every week, just no matter who they are playing, you can go ahead and safely play them. Again, it's just me. I feel like they're a threat to score a touchdown every single week.
Okay, going off the beaten path, what team would you pick as far as like the top 2 or 3 defensive?
Top 2 or 3 defenses for sure. I like the Cowboys just about every single week. It might be a little biased. I like the Steelers just because T.J. Watt is just a monster.
Okay,
he's an absolute monster. He single-handedly won that game against the Falcons last week. And then again, possibly matchup based, but I like the Ravens a little. They just have a really tough strength of schedule every single week. But otherwise, they're just. On paper, they're one of the best defenses out there. Roquan Smith, former Bear, just a beast right there.
Yeah. And he came away with a pick last week, too.
Yeah.
Moving on to the 1-0 Buccaneers at the 1-0 Lions.
I think this is the highest spread on the game, highest total on the week. And I expect that from a lot of these offensive guys right here. Fully healthy Mike Evans, fully healthy Chris Godwin being thrown to from Baker Mayfield, who – in my mind, still feels like he has a chip on his shoulder.
I would definitely say so because after being discarded, this is most likely a lot of the pundits say that this is his last chance for success to be a starter in the NFL. And right now, he is balling out.
Yeah, he went in there. He got paid. He got the extension last year, so he's set and ready to roll. Like I said, this between him, Rashid Shaheed, and another name you might want to put on the back burner, just not starting worthy just yet, but very, very much worth the stash. Bucky Irving, the backup running back, the rookie running back for the Buccaneers. Again, I love all the guys right here in this matchup right here. So again. All the names I just mentioned, worth the start. Lions side of things, of course. This was another one. Amon-Ra St. Brown, not a huge week 1, but again, in my mind, it was a tougher matchup with the Rams. I think low key, not the best defense, but better cornerbacks, better matchup for him on that. But he should have Amon-Ra should have a big uptick this week. I think he averages like 80 yards these past 2 or 3 games against the Buccaneers. They played him in the playoffs. They played him last year and during the regular season. So it's very high rising and exciting. Sam Laporta, same thing. You're playing Jahmyr Gibbs. You're playing David Montgomery, and in a stretch, and if you had if you had a hook, maybe again, if you have the hook, that means you have the quarterback and the wide receiver or the pass catcher of that team. So you get the touchdown not once but twice. That's the hook, baby. So I love basically anybody in this Lions and Buccaneers matchup this week for fantasy.
Fair enough. Next up would be the 0-1 Colts versus at the Green Bay Packers, the 0-1 Packers.
This my favorite play in both fantasy and gambling this week. Gamble responsibly, of course. 1-800-GAMBLER. Is Jonathan Taylor an anytime touchdown? Former Wisconsin Badger. He's coming up. This is his first game at Lambeau Field. He's very much excited. He's looking forward to a Lambeau Leap. He's already talked about it. And not only that, Alabama is in town facing Wisconsin today, actually.
Yep.
So they're fired up. He says Madison is fired up. He's fired up. I'm ready to roll with an anytime touchdown for Jonathan Taylor. I'm plugging him into every lineup that possibly can be. I know he didn't get any pass catching last week. Made it up for it with the touchdown somewhat. But I think he's due for a big one. It was a very weird game last week for the Colts. Only 9 completed passes for Anthony Richardson. Still has over 200 yards. Bonkos, because he has that 3 large bombs right there. But like I said, still speaking on that, Anthony Richardson is a great play. Jonathan Taylor, like I just mentioned. Their wide receivers is interesting. Of course, you're most likely going to look at Michael Pittman Jr. I like their rookie Adonia Mitchell on the back end for stashing situations. And then not really much else going on over there on the Colts side of things, I don't believe. Packers-wise, they're getting Malik Willis confirmed, I believe, this week. Most likely doubtful for Jordan Love to return after just getting rolled up on during the Brazil game in week 1. I'm going to hammer Josh Jacobs. I think that would be the route. I think they're going to very much rely on the run game this week. Josh Jacobs and then the backup, the rookie Wilson. Again, not viable for a start, but very much look at him for stashing situations. And of course, again, if you're not following, stashing obviously just means put him on your bench, low end. So hopefully
reserve list.
Yeah, exactly. Hopefully you dump a guy that you're like, I'm not going to start him this week, and he might not get picked up at all. I'll dump him for a guy that has a high end stash rate or something like that. So I like him. I like that for this situation.
Moving on.
Yeah.
We've got the 0-1 Browns, the dumpster fire that organization seems to be, at the 0-1 Jaguars.
Yeah. Side note, did you see that fun little thing that it was going viral, the radio call in for the Browns?
Oh, no, I did not. Oh, so I could only imagine.
He calls in. He goes, "You're going to know these numbers as soon as I say it." And he rattles off the QBR for Deshaun Watson and the QBR for Baker Mayfield. And the Cleveland radio host just goes nuts. He goes, "I'm not doing this. Not on the first call. I can't do this. I didn't make the trade." So you're exactly right. The Browns organization as a whole, it's fallen apart to a certain degree. I mean, the Deshaun Watson news is very unfortunate in that situation. For a guy that just, I mean, it's very rough in that.
Yeah, the Deshaun Watson thing it's kind of, I would liken it to an onion. You peel back one layer of, oh my God, what just happened, and you get another layer of, holy shiatsu, I can't believe that this is like even going further than that.
Yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah,
I mean, above all else, obviously. So
anyone off the Browns?
I like Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford, the backup, not the backup. Well, backup to Nick Chubb, who eventually you might see in week 4 or week 5. But Jerome Ford, I like this week. He had 6 catches last week. Again, if you're playing in that format, Jaguars' run defense wasn't the best. So it spread out. Gave up like 80 yards to a couple of Dolphins running backs. But yeah, I like Jerome Ford. No David Njoku, most likely no David Njoku. So I think that opens it up for Amari Cooper to have a bounce back, to have a big game from last week. Jerry Jeudy might also be a nice little option. But yeah, the pass catchers there again. Be mindful. No David Njoku, most likely. On the opposite end, Jaguars. Again, backup, you might want to stash Tank Bigsby, but also looking at, of course, Travis Etienne Jr. I think he's still going to get a bulk of the carries. Doug Peterson was still very adamant, even though he fumbled and essentially gave away the game for the Jaguars, they're still going to give him the confidence. They're still going to give Travis Etienne Jr. the rock and let him go. Hopefully, maybe again for me, I got Kirk on my team, Christian Kirk. Hopefully, he gets a bounce back there. Maybe he becomes the number one option in that sense. But Gabe Davis, I'm mindful, gotta watch out. And the big one right there for sure, Evan Ingram. He's in the top 10 for tight ends, and tight ends is just you can't make heads or tails of tight ends sometimes. Of course, you want Sam Laporta to do well. You want Travis Kelce, and then of course you got either like Mark Andrews or Isaiah Likely in this instance. You would want that to be the case, but it can't always be that way. So tight end's always tough. Ivan Ingram, pick it up.
Gotcha. Now we're moving on to the 1-0 49ers at the 1-0 Vikings.
49ers, the big headline is Christian McCaffrey most likely out again. So Jordan Mason.
Oh boy.
If you picked up Jordan Mason, if it wasn't Jordan Mason, J.K. Dobbins or Isaiah, those were probably the big top 3 waiver wire moves this week. If you didn't already draft one of those guys, so that's gonna be the big problem. Now, is this thing with McCaffrey? Is this the Madden jinx? This could be the Madden thing. This could be the lingering injury the entire time. A guy that finishes number 1 from last year never really duplicates it the next year. From the report I saw, and again, just kind of hearsay type deal, I think they want to limit McCaffrey this year, especially during the regular season. Oh, sure. And then when it comes time for playoffs, let him go crazy like they did for Travis Kelce last year. Yeah, because he's the Swiss Army knife for the 49ers. Yeah. And again, when there's so much talent on the 49ers, why do you have to give, he's 30 touches for him and nobody else? No, you have Debo, you have George Kittle, you have Brandon Ayuk ready to roll. This is an offense that can hit you all different ways. Okay, anything for the Vikings? Vikings, of course, you're always going to play Justin Jefferson. Jordan Addison is out. Watch out for that, of course. No real, bounce back there. But if you need to in a pinch, Aaron Jones. But I'm not humongous on Aaron Jones, especially this week. The Niners defense is tough. Gotcha. And real quick before we go to break, we've got the 1-0 Seahawks versus the 1-0 Patriots. 1-0 Seahawks. Again, Kenneth Walker, a huge, most likely doubtful, most likely not going to play this week. So Zach Charbonnet is going to be the guy you roll with. You would think he's going to get the bulk of the carries, not really much else to back up and go there. Again, hopefully bouncing back from Metcalf and a good game from Tyler Lockett and everybody else there. Patriots side of things, I'm going with Ramondre. And honestly, the defense isn't the worst, but I'm not too confident just yet. Everybody else is kind of just up in the air. So okay, what about the Patriots? Yeah, Patriots. Ramondre Stevenson. Sorry, no, you're good. With my knowledge, you are more vastly knowledgeable as far as like the NFL players as far as I'm concerned, which is why you're on the show. I appreciate it. So there is that. But how much time have we got? 30 seconds. Okay. So you are listening to On the Rise with your host, Derek Geyer. In studio is Nick Johnson, our fantasy football guru. You are listening to AM 1410 WRMN Radio. And we will be continuing the fantasy sports talk hour, half hour, 45 minutes, whatever. We're not picky about what we are doing here in the studios. And we will see you in a minute or 6.
It's the time of the year where storms and inclement weather can pop up unexpectedly. If you have a generator powered by a small engine, keep it running like a top. Don't do the tune-up yourself. Let Ames Small Engine Repair at 674 Laurel Street in Elgin handle your generator. Ames can do oil changes, spark plugs, and make all the necessary adjustments. From simple tune-ups to major repairs, Ames Small Engine can do it all. Don't forget it's not too early to think about a lawnmower tune-up. Call 847-742-8750.
The possibility of lung cancer can be pretty scary, especially if you're one of approximately 8 million current or former smokers at high risk. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know that now there's a breakthrough low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early, and it only takes 60 seconds. You stop smoking, now start screening. For an easy quiz to see if you're eligible, visit SaveByTheScan.org. It could save your life. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
Oh no, I just hit that post and my car's got a dent.
Uh-oh, better get Mako.
Oh yeah? Where are they?
Mako is America's body shop. They're the world's largest provider of paint and collision services. They're located at 212 Western Avenue in Carpentersville, across from Spring Hill Mall. I've used them. Check out my car.
Wow, looking good.
Everything was so easy and affordable. Hummer and staff were super friendly and really knew their stuff.
I'm going to call them now.
Mention WRMN 1410 at the Carpentersville Mako and receive 10% off today.
What's the best way to get rid of a timeshare that you don't want? Call the Timeshare Exit Hotline. We're a group of attorneys that help customers legally exit their timeshares. It's an easy process. We guarantee results or you pay nothing. Exit your timeshare today. Call now.
800-890-5957. 800-890-5957. That's 800-890-5957.
Are you ready to take your brand to the next level? Image 360 South Elgin is your ultimate destination for custom signs and visual communication solutions. Looking to rebrand your office interior? Need striking vehicle wraps or decals for your fleet? Or perhaps you're in the market for a standout trade show display? At Image 360 South Elgin, they've got you covered. As your full-service custom sign and graphics partner, they deliver bold solutions and exceptional support. From outdoor signage to eye-catching store signs, indoor graphics to comprehensive branding solutions, they have the experience to elevate your brand's presence. Trust Image 360 to create a long-term partnership that gives your brand 360 degrees of exposure. Visit them at 506 Sundown Road in South Elgin. Image 360 South Elgin. Bold solutions, exceptional support.
A recent Gallup poll indicated that 38% of Americans are putting off health care because of financial concerns, the highest ever recorded. I'm Dr. Bob Martin, here to serve you every Sunday afternoon from 1 to 4. Millions of Americans are seeking health advice that will not cost an arm and a leg, so I offer health tips and advice absolutely free. Listen to my show, Sunday afternoons from 1 to 4 right here on WRMN, AM 1410 and 96.7 FM, the voice of the Valley and the home of Radio Shopping Show.
Come on out to the Country Donuts, that is, at Route 20 and Nestler Road. They're always open. Donuts are made daily using only the finest ingredients to ensure freshness. Their huge variety of donuts offers something to please everyone. Country Donuts doesn't stop at offering you the best donuts. Enjoy a delicious breakfast sandwich or stop in for lunch and try a bowl of their famous chili. Need a larger or special donut order for your office? Call 847-488-1900.
You're listening to On the Rise with Mike Napolitano and Derek Geyer on 1410 AM WRMN.
All right, you are listening to On the Rise on AM 1410 WRMN. I am your host, Derek Geyer. Alongside me in the studio is our fantasy correspondent, Nick Johnston. Okay, Nick, we left off talking about the Seahawks and Patriots, so we are moving on to the 0-1 Jets. Oh, sorry, that would be the Aaron Rodgers Jets thing. That's why I'm kind of like, cackling like an idiot. At the the Jets versus the Titans, 0-1. So, what do you got?
A little bit of a bounce back, hopefully, for Rodgers right there. At least on the side of fantasy.
No,
aspect.
come on.
Are you not a Rodgers guy? Just in general?
No.
Okay, I just want
His
to make
ayahuasca ass. No.
Nah, it's tough.
Hey,
Sure.
whatever. I'm not here to kink shame or bud shame or whatever the heck
Did you Did you see the comparison that Parkins was able to make over on FS1?
No, I did not.
So blindly during his new show, I forgot it's blanking on me. I think it's called like the morning football show.
He's dead to us.
But they compared Aaron Rodgers and then off to the side, like, a week 1 starter last year who had similar numbers ended up being Zach Wilson.
Oh Jesus!
who got the win last year compared to Rodgers, who couldn't. Much tougher instance. But of course, looking at it this week, a guy like myself who has Garrett Wilson, I can only hope that he gets an uptick in targets.
Okay.
I would hope that he gets an upside of at least double-digit target share.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's going to be the thing there. Garrett Wilson, of course, is in your lineup. Breece Hall, without a doubt, is in your lineup. I know.
Yeah.
The Bears offense, Bears running backs couldn't really do much against this Tennessee Titans defense. It's much different. Jeffrey Simmons, I believe that's his name, the D tackle for the Titans. He's going to eat up. He's going to be a huge problem. But again, with the passing that Breece Hall is able to get, and he's always viable for a score. He most likely could have won 1 in your leagues as well. He went pretty early for me.
Sure.
Breece Hall always in there. Garrett Wilson. Aaron Rodgers. It's tough. Again in a 12-man maybe. Again, especially if you have the hook there with him and Garrett, that might be the play. But yeah, those are really the 3 big names right there. I know Allen Lazard was a huge acquisition on your waiver wires. Be mindful. He's not going to have a 2-touchdown game every single week. That was just in no man's land time. No one really worried about it. So I wouldn't, if you have the
in vogue, if you will.
If you have a fab budget, that means for anybody, that's your free agent allowance basically throughout the entire year. People went crazy and just blew a lot of their fab on Allen Lazard right away. Don't do that.
Oof.
Don't do that.
In week 1.
Yeah, exactly. Not
2.
Yeah,
Ooh.
it was a lot of things like that. For like Tyler Johnson, I'm sure we'll get to the Rams a little bit later. So be mindful. Week 1, don't go through your entire budget right away when it comes to your free agency, your free agency dollars. On the Titans side of things,
Pollard?
Pollard is still viable. I think he's one of your better options right there. Calvin Ridley, I wouldn't be too afraid of just yet. Like I said, tough side for him last week, going up against a very, very good Bears secondary.
Yeah, that was impressive.
But Will Levis, he's not going to have the big whoopsies. I don't think he's going to have crazy great games every single week. But he's not going to throw oopsie doopsie little pick sixes like he did every single time.
Oh,
I'm trying to think
no mayonnaise involved with that.
Yeah, no. But I mean, he did sell out his cologne, so shout out to him.
Hey, well, good for him being a businessman.
Yeah.
So we're moving on to the 0-1 New York Giants at the 0-1 Washington. I still can't get this out of my mouth. Commanders.
Yeah.
To me, it's always going to be the other thing, but whatever. I got to change with the times, this old fart here.
Of course.
But, yeah. So, hit it off. Giants, Commanders. Who do you got?
Giants.
Or don't.
Honestly, on paper, this is looking pretty rough. But
yeah.
Giants, if you have any, Malik Neighbors is going to be the guy. If there's any rookie names or especially wide receivers, Malik Neighbors might be the safest right now, especially in week 2. Rome hurt his knee. Again, Ladd McConkey, I like him, but not the greatest matchup this week. I'm trying to think of just off the top of the dome, but I'm sure we'll get to it later. Not a ton.
Very, very sparse.
Yeah, not a ton, especially on the Giants side of things. Devin Singletary, if you need him in a pinch, I'm not going crazy for him. You just know that he's going to get a ton of touches and a ton of with the Giants right here. Okay, it's just a matter of it's been the whole talk this week of Daniel Jones and his confidence level throughout the year. It's looking tough. It's looking especially when you hand off a guy essentially who was the bell cow last year in Saquon Barkley. He goes ahead, he scores 3 touchdowns by himself, and the Giants do nothing.
Yeah, and then you find out in the offseason, because of Hard Knocks and all of that fun stuff, that your organization has absolutely no faith in you, and that they're looking to either trade you, cut you, and draft your replacement.
Yeah, essentially that was the case for a little bit when they were considering J.J. McCarthy, when they were maybe thinking about Drake May. It was all but set in stone that they're opposing the team that they're playing was going to get Jaden Daniels. So that's what ended up happening. And honestly, I like Jaden Daniels this week. I like Jaden Daniels for a couple of scores. He hit 16 rushing attempts last week. Not going to be the same thing. I don't believe that they want to do that every single week. So from the news, if you have Brian Robinson Jr. or Austin Eckler, they're going to get more goal line touches, more rushing attempts overall. Because like I said, they do not want their star, or who they think will be their star rookie quarterback going forward for the next 5, 10, 15 years, hopefully, for that organization. They don't want him being run and hit too hard and obviously not being protected, like something like that. So I like him. If there was anything for the Giants, it was going to be maybe their defense. That is not a thing. So I like Jaden Daniels. I like Jaden Daniels to score.
I was going to say.
I like Jaden Daniels to score and maybe even score 2 touchdowns passing through the air this week. So Terry McLaurin, I like him this week for sure.
Cool. Now we are moving on to that 3:05 prime time game of the week on Fox. Oof, that's probably going to be another Tom Brady thing, but I digress with that one. That was kind of a rough watch.
It was an interesting debut for Tom Brady.
Yeah. Thank you. That you're being a lot kinder than I am with that one. We've got
I miss Greg Olson.
Yeah, tell me about it. Wow, so true, so true. 0-1 Rams. The LA Rams versus the Arizona Cardinals, 0-1 as well.
Divisional matchup right here. I like the Rams, but, I mean, it was very interesting to see that the Cardinals were able to keep up with the Bills last week the way that they did. I'm very interested, almost on this scared side, if you took Marvin Harrison Jr., where possibly some people did, and maybe even the second round.
That's a high ask.
Yeah, that was a tough one, and you hear the stuff from Kyler Murray, his quote of, "It's not my responsibility to feed him the ball." It kind of is, but I do see where his point was. I'm not going to overshare with it. I'm not going to constantly only look his way. There is another way to get the ball down the field.
You got the other receivers. You got the running back. You've got the tight ends.
Yes.
Now, I mean, and it is also Harrison's job to get open.
That is true, too. That was kind of also my counterpoint to that is, you need to be open. I think for the most part he was, I'm sure, in wide open situations he could have been. But, Marvin Harrison Jr., you would like to hope. I'm not putting a ton into him. It's very possible that he may even have another big oopsie. So another one, low scoring one there. But I like James Conner. He scored. I believe he had a ton of the rushing. A lot of pass catches, a lot of passes caught last week as well. So that added to his value. But overall, you're looking at him. Not really much else. Kyler as well, but Trey McBride, of course. Trey McBride was probably maybe even number 1 ranked in some people's tight end list this year. So between him, Laporta, Kelsey, you're throwing him in there without a doubt. On the Rams side of things, very interesting with Puka Nacua going down on the IR, so he'll be out at least 4 weeks. Cooper Kupp clearly was the guy in charge. 21 targets. He caught 14 balls last week. Matthew Stafford was just like, him on the complete opposite end of, I need to feed only one guy. I don't want to do that with Marvin Harrison Jr.
I know
I'm do that with Cooper Kupp.
I know who my guy is going to be. Yeah. Gotcha.
But that, of course, opens it up to Tyler Johnson or Demarcus Robinson on the who's going to be the second option in terms of pass catching there. Yeah. But I like Kyren Williams on this week. I think he's going to be due for a big one on the running back side of things.
Okay, now we're moving into the CBS primetime spot at 3:25. We've got the 1-0 Steelers versus the 0-1 Broncos at Denver.
Yeah.
Now, this was the game that we were talking about earlier where the field goal kicker for the Steelers, who was that?
Chris Boswell.
Chris Boswell. He hit 5 field goals to propel the Steelers over, I believe it was Atlanta.
Yes.
And they're going against Bo Nix in the Broncos in Denver.
In Mile High City, yes, indeed.
So what are we thinking of this game?
I like the defenses for both sides. The Steelers more than the other, obviously. This is going to be low scoring across the board, so be mindful of that.
Oh, and don't forget we have our old friend, Justin Fields.
Justin Fields most likely getting the start there. And honestly, as the Bears guys over here, we do want that because
we do.
If he plays more than 50% of the offensive snaps, 51% to be exact, the draft
rises,
pick goes up. So
because the 6th round is no longer a 6th-round pick.
Yeah, it turns into a 4th, I believe.
I believe so.
Yeah,
so that's quite a jump.
Absolutely. So you want that. And he didn't look, flustered. He looked like he was somewhat comfortable to a certain degree. Didn't get the touchdown that the Steelers needed, but obviously with the defense, they didn't need that right away. So
no, and he still looked like he was scared for his life and running around like a chicken with his head.
150 yards through the air, 50 on the ground. That's
pretty much what he got for the Bears.
Yeah, the book is out on Justin Fields. Right. That is his ceiling, I assume. Maybe again a couple touchdowns
I hope
here
not,
and there.
but it is what it is at this point.
Yeah, I still root for him to some degree, but of course, being on the Steelers side, you gotta root only to a certain cap off.
Sure.
So, with that being said, in a deep end, I can maybe see the upside for Justin, but he's not going to be my first set of quarterbacks to want to play this week, of course. But George Pickens picking it up, pun intended. I think he's going to be fine right there. A tough ask. I see Pat Freiermuth in the top 10 for tight ends, but it's really weird right there. I mean, it's just tight end in general. It's tough to decide. Najee Harris, and then I'm also being mindful not starting, but still on the back end of my bench is Jalen Warren, so just in case. And then Bo Nix, not too worried. I'm not really playing anybody on the Broncos offense. Javonte Williams, he's. I don't know what would be the word. It's like he puts things like, I'll be valuable, and then he's just he's just on a milk carton every single year. So
bait and switch.
Yeah, he's a little, I don't want to say fraud, but he tricks you. He tricks you at the beginning, like you said.
Yeah, there's a little bit of hope, and the rug is out from under you.
Yeah, exactly. But hopefully, if you got him, maybe you got him really late in drafts, maybe like 8, 9, 10th round or something like that. So
okay.
Yeah, nothing too much there. Like I said, pretty low scoring. If I'm going to play anybody for sure, it's going to be the Steelers defense.
Gotcha. And then we got the other CBS 325 game. We've got the 0-1 Bengals, or would it be the Bungles now? It seems to go back and forth a little bit with the Bengals.
Yeah.
One year the expectations are really good. Next year, not so much. But anyways, 0-1 Bengals at the 1-0 Chiefs. Well, Jesus, I would take everyone off the Chiefs, but that's me personally because, Jesus, it's the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Patrick Mahomes.
They look scary on Thursday.
My goodness.
They look so scary.
And juxtapose how the Bears were and everything. I watched that game with the Chiefs on opening Thursday, and I'm like, oh, my God, this is how football looks.
Yeah.
Then you watch that god-awful Bears game, and it's, wait, why can't we have nice things?
You're like, the ball's supposed to go forward. Like,
right.
That's how it works here.
Okay. That aside, 0-1 Bengals at the 1-0 Chiefs. What do you got?
Bengals always come out. They always start slow in September. Don't know what it is. Maybe just the way that they're working right now. But you still want to be hopeful. Jamar Chase is in your lineup. Zach Moss in the backfield. Not really looking at that. T. Higgins might be doubtful again this week with his hamstring, and we were talking just that whole idea that some fans think he's faking. Crazy. Absolutely crazy to think that. And even he is just like, huh? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I don't know any professional athlete would actually fake an injury unless it might be during the middle of the baseball season or something where you got the mysterious, my forearm strain or I've got a ingrown toenail or some shiatsu like that.
The only faking of injury maybe happens on the soccer pitch, I would like to think. When
you looked at me.
Yeah. So in that case, again, I'm going to go against the rumors, the idea that he's holding out and faking an injury, which is again beyond crazy. When you're a when you're a football, just a player, this is what you hone in on. You hunger for. You want this every single. You don't look at games like work. You look at games like this is fun. I want to go make my craft better. So again,
even still, on losing teams, these guys are professionals. They get paid very, very well.
Yeah, they want
to perform. Yeah, they want to win. I mean, even with the. I hesitate to say this, but I'm going to say it anyway. Even with the Chicago White Sox, they're still out there. Yeah. They're still performing because there are another 30-plus teams, 29, 30 teams, 31 other teams that will look at you for potentially being on their roster to pay you significant money.
Yeah.
So with that being said, I mean, it's just it boggles my mind that that's what's going on.
It's laughable. It's absolutely laughable. It's just it's the idea that anyone at any time on the internet will just say anything just to get a rise. Bengals side, like I mentioned, Jamar Chase, you're still hopeful. Joe Burrow, you want to throw in there again, especially if you have the hook with that kid with Jamar Chase right there. But anybody else, not really looking too great right there. Chiefs side, I mean, like you said, it's not
a plethora.
It's not an exaggeration. You could play everybody.
Yeah.
Even Xavier Worthy, where he gets 3 touches on the week but scores twice. I still have him as a flex option right there. The only problem, the only big news right there, Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, on the IR. I would think he might be out the entire year as of right now. So Rishi Rice, that adds to him a little bit more. Travis Kelce,
and he was impressive. Rice was impressive.
Rice had a lovely day. He was humongous on that side of things. A lot of yards after the catch, so that was nice to see as well. So not only is he getting open, he's able to be useful with the ball. Just needed a score to cap off such a nice day. But obviously, I think that'll find his way. He'll find his way into the end zone. Xavier Worthy, same difference. And then again, Travis Kelce, you would hope a bigger work side of that. But then again, he's 36, 37 years old. He's older.
I'd say he's doing pretty good with the girlfriend situation and you know the second career as the wife.
The podcast too. He's rolling with that.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Now we are moving on to the much anticipated second Bears game of the season, which is the Sunday night game on NBC. So we got the 1-0 Chi-Town Bears, Chicago Bears, and Caleb Williams going up against the 1-0 Texans. How we feel about this?
On the Bears side of things, as a fan too, not excited. I want there to be
highs of highs and lowest of lows.
Yeah, I want it to be competitive. Of course, this is a very from the Titans to the Texans. This is a much better team to be facing. A team that not only won the division, could have made it as a dark horse to the Super Bowl, but just fell a little bit short there.
And let's be honest, the Bears fell significantly short on the offensive side of the ball last
100%. Week. There's 3 phases of the game. 2 phases showed up, and luckily 2 phases were good enough to beat the Titans last week.
Right.
But you need the offense to show up this week because this Texans, it could be, you saw it with the Colts. It was a shootout up until the end. So tough challenge for the Bears. Fantasy-wise, I'm not too confident in really playing anybody. I'll go with DJ Moore if I have to pick somebody, but that's because, Keenan Allen's been the entire wide receiver corps seemed to be banged up to a certain degree in week 1.
Yeah, most likely Odunze is going to be sitting out too.
Yeah, saw Odunze go out with his knee. Keenan Allen was banged up. He's been limited all week with his heel, and then of course DJ Moore. I don't believe he was on the injury report, but you saw him limping and gimping around in week 1. He was getting banged up back and forth. So you would hope it's just basically the solutions were everything you didn't see in last week, where hopefully they get the run game going. Hopefully they get Cole Kmet involved. And then again, if the idea is, can the second half Bears defense show up the entire game, not just the second half?
Right.
So that's the hope for the Bears side of things. Again, in terms of fantasy, might only be DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift in a low flex option, but They just couldn't get the run game going. Hopefully they do, but a much tougher pass defense, or just rush defense in general. Will Anderson didn't get a sack last week. He's going to be hungry. He's going to be honing down, especially on a rookie quarterback. Same thing with Danielle Hunter on the opposite end. So this is going to be a tough line for the Bears to be running through. Texans, again, it's almost similar to the Chiefs, where C.J. Stroud, Nico Collins, Stephon Diggs, even Tank Dell, all viable options, all guys I'm willing to start this week on. C.J. Stroud might be a top 5, top 8 quarterback when it comes to in most rankings right now. So for sure, throwing him in there.
Yeah.
And then Joe Mixon. Joe Mixon had a humongous day on the ground. I wouldn't see how he doesn't come close to that in terms of at least scoring wise. Again, should be interesting. I personally. Again, I hope the Bears keep it competitive. I think it might be 31-17, 28-14 type game in favor of the Texans. So,
well, that seems kind of ominous, but I mean, it is the Texans going against the Bears and
at home Sunday night.
In a very tough, hostile.
A rookie underneath the lights.
Absolutely.
Like I said, I don't want to say his confidence is not there, but it's going to be a little bit rocky, a little bit shaken up after that Titans performance. So. We'll see.
Okay. And we are moving on to the Monday night game where we've got the 0-1 Falcons at the 1-0 Eagles. The Battle of the Birds. Yeah. What do we got here?
We got the Dirty Birds and the Hurdy Birds. Jalen Hurts.
I see what you did there.
Yeah.
Nice.
So I like, obviously, Bijan Robinson for the Falcons side of things. That's going to be fine. You would hope, again, with Kirk Cousins, maybe he bounces back, gets Drake London involved. But Kyle Pitts is still going to be on your tight end list on your rankings right there. He caught a touchdown last week and made his fantasy day worthwhile. But otherwise, be mindful. I just saw that I didn't notice yesterday. I guess A.J. Brown is on the injury report for a hamstring situation for his hamstring. If he can't go for some reason, obviously Devonta Smith is going to get a huge uptick. But I also like Dallas Goedert, if that's the case too, for, again, just pass catching situations. But otherwise, of course, like I said, Saquon, you're plugging him in. You have no issue right there. You would hope to see similar output. You're not going to get 3 touchdowns a game.
Right.
But he's going to get a huge bulk of the yardage, the catches, and, again, might even be an option to score every single week. So I like that. Overall, I'm gonna lean the Eagles, and like I said, maybe even the Eagles' defense is not the worst option either.
Yeah, going up against the Falcons, who did lose the Steelers the previous week, and
Kirk Cousins was very limited, very slow in the pocket. He got sacked a couple times. Like I said, got picked off as well a few times. Just an older quarterback in a new system. It doesn't always pan out very quickly.
Fair enough. And we have hit the end of Fantasy Sports Hour. It was only supposed to be 30 minutes, but hell, we are a little long-winded here.
Yeah.
I know I am when I can be, but I do appreciate you coming in, Nick Johnston. This has been your Fantasy Sports Hour with Nick Johnston. I am your host, Derek Geyer. Why don't you tell everyone real quick about your socials?
At njohnston6351 on X, YouTube side of things. The No Substitute for Sports on that as well, and then like you said, you can check us out basically every single day on twitch.tv/SportsTownShy for basically anything. We talk anything and all sports there all the time.
Awesome. This has been On the Rise on AM 1410 WRMN. I've been your host. For my co-host Mike Napolitano, thank you to our board operator Matt McNeil. Thank you, Dennis Sonar Green, our program manager. And as always, you can catch us on Saturday mornings from 8 to 10 on AM 1410 WRMN. Have a great day, y'all.